welcome, I'm the Scrivener, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. And this is her second book ever, and it takes a Mulan retelling and makes it from a soldier's tale into a tailor's tale, in which she is bidding to become the next imperial tailor. So it is a very interesting story. It starts with Maya, and it kind of gives us a little bit of backstory. Her mother died when she was young because, you know, tragic backstories are how fairy tales are born. And her father became an alcoholic, and then there was a war, and her two brothers go off to war and they both die, and then her next brother is like, I want to be a good soldier too, so he also went off to war, and he used to be really funny, and then he comes back and he can't walk, and he also isn't funny anymore because tragedy. And there's also a really cool line at the beginning which says, like, I was young enough to still believe in the glory of war, which I thought was just a really cool line. Anyways, I ended up giving this book 2 stars, but this is like a close to 3 stars. And that's because I don't think I would reread it, which is my cutoff for 3 stars, but I'm going to go through some pros and cons and tell you how I thought about this book, and how about I'm excited about seeing Elizabeth Lim develop as an author, and I'm excited for her. So first pro is that there is some beautiful, beautiful world building here. So it is based on Asian mythology, and particularly Chinese mythology. This was the thing that disappointed me the most because I didn't feel like there was any clear callbacks to really a lot of Asian world building in there. I'm not Asian myself, so I obviously don't know the nuances of it, but I don't think that I could read this book not knowing that it had Asian rep and not know that at all. It didn't seem like it was particularly integrated into the culture, which I was disappointed about. However, the nuances views of the world building is really cool. So we have a world of magic and also gods and pantheism and a lot of people who like don't believe in gods and who do believe in gods, and Maya herself is a cynic. She doesn't believe that there's magic, she doesn't believe there's gods. Her father prayed for gods for a really long time, and her brother still died, her mother still died, her brother still became disabled, and she just doesn't believe that there's such thing as magic or anything like that. But when she goes off, she finds out that, you know, there's this high, what is his name? He's the magician dude. And he has magic, and she discovers that she has scissors and that her scissors do magicness. But she doesn't want to use these scissors because these scissors are, you know, not her full work. And I'll get to that later. But the thing is that I find it really cool is a lot of the setup for the novel is the fact that we have the emperor who is getting married to the beautiful woman who is the daughter of his former nemesis, the guy whose war they were fighting against, and they sternly did not believe in magic at all. And then she believes it's kind of a betrayal of her father that she was to marry this man who practices magic and whose court celebrates magic. And I thought that was a very interesting take. We have a lot of blends of like the mythology and the worldviews and how they all have a different opinion on magic, and I thought that was really cool. I also thought it was cool to have a mix of inspiration there, and of course there was some jinn in here, and that is from Arabian mythology, so there wasn't a lot of clear, I'm not sure, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if there's any clear Chinese directly inspired mythology. I looked it up, but I couldn't find anything specific, but jinn is definitely not in Chinese mythology, so I thought it was a cool blending of different cultures. And then we have my first con, which is just the whole first act. So the book is split into pretty much 2 direct halves, which the first is the competition of the tailor, and the second is the quest to find 3 dresses that are very cool. One is of moonlight, one is of stars, and one is of the sun. So this part is just frustrating because we have Maya, who's dressed as a boy, obviously, and there's some good hiding there in which we talk about the fact that she's just like a girlish boy. They all think that she's like this boy who still hasn't gone through puberty and not actually a girl, which makes sense, and they make a lot of jokes at her expense and stuff. But the thing is, from the moment that like she steps in, they start like targeting her and like kind of like bullying her and stuff, and it doesn't make sense. Like, they all think that she's just this little boy when they're all masters and that they can easily beat her, and then they like go out of their way to like sabotage her and like pick on her, and it's just like, you don't do that to someone you don't think is of competition. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then throughout all the competition and stuff, her name's always said last. It's always like suspense and then her name, and it's like, why? The characters don't know that she's the main character, so why are they suspensefully giving her this? And that's just like annoying when it's like, it's okay if it's like makes sense, but like the characters shouldn't be acting as if they know that Maya is the main character. And I found that very frustrating. There's just the whole thing with the scissors also. She just did not want to use these scissors. She literally buried them at one point. These were her grandmother's scissors and she just buries them because she's like, and it's just frustrating. But Eden says a really cool line to her that I really liked, and it says, you have always been underestimated, and thus you want to do it pretty much on your own, but don't let that be your clutch. Accept help when you need to. And I think that that's a really important line that a lot of protagonists need to learn, because I think that it's like the downfall of so many protagonists that they just really, really don't accept help. And I'm like, if you only just... The next pro would be that the writing was really brilliant. It was beautifully crafted and lovely. Like the descriptions, the metaphor, the similes were all awesome. And it was also really cool that a lot of the imagery of seamistry, tailoring, I don't know what it's called. Anyways, like knitting and sewing and all of that was like weaved into, I did it, not even planned, into the way that metaphors and similes and just the writing was constructed, which I thought was really cool. There's some complaints about the fight scenes, which I agree they weren't the best written. I didn't find them as atrocious as some people did, but yeah, I think that the general writing really added to the magic of the series, and there's some lines that just really stole my heart, and I think that that's, I'm a sucker for good writing. And then we have a con, which is the magic system. As I already explained, the magic system in the world is pretty good, but I didn't think the magic system was very well, like, it didn't have a lot of limits. It was, like, very, like, soft on what was allowed, and I think that that added a beauty, but it also came into problematic issues when it comes to the idea of the second half, where a big plot is that, like, the magic is becoming more and more, like, rare and is being exhausted, and yet they always manage to get out of it. And that's just frustrating to me, because you need them to fail at least sometimes, and that's they never do it. They always succeed, and it's just, no, we don't need this Deus Ex Machina. We need to have some consequences to it. And then also, like, kind of associated with that, like, Maya just fights sometimes, and you're like, you've already established that you cannot fight, so stop fighting now, it's not realistic. So then I have some just more general thoughts that are just like quick things, and the first one is like, stop making teenage girls fall in love with 100-year-old men. Very, very old men. I don't care if he looks 20, he's not 20, he's over 500 years old. I don't care what his body looks like. That's the thing that, like, writers, like, they're always like, oh yes, he was in the lamp for part of the time, so like, it's alright. It's not alright, okay? And then I want to see more of Lady Sarnai, yeah, Lady Sarnai. She was really cool. I thought that the fact that she was grown up to be more like wild and like, she's kind of like a warrior, and she doesn't really like the whole princess thing, you know, a little bit typical, but she doesn't believe in magic, and then she's flown into this court, and I thought that that was so cool and interesting, and throughout the novel she's shown to be very clever and very intelligent, and she's given a little bit of villainization, but like, I really latched onto her at the beginning. I was kind of like, give me her story, I really want to hear it. So I'm hoping in the second book we'll get more of her, because I thought she was just really cool. Along with that, I thought the Emperor was really cool. His like magic and kind of the fact that everyone is kind of compelled and infatuated with him is really cool, especially since Sarnai isn't, and I'm just very interested in that whole dynamic, and I would totally take a story based on them, or hope that they're more included in the second book. And then probably my biggest annoyance the whole time is the opening premise, which is that she has to dress like a boy in order to be a seamstress, which just is absurd to me. There's no ever justification on why it's only a man's profession, because it doesn't make sense in our world, because, you know, of course there was tailors in the good old days, but traditionally sewing has been like a female thing. Like, it's part of the like sexism. Like, a sexist joke could very easily be made on the premise that women are only good for cooking and sewing and cleaning. Like, that, like, I'm saying, of course it's a wrong assumption, but like, in our society, sewing is not seen as masculine, so why is it in this culture, and why is that never ever touched on, is very frustrating for me. And then another aspect that I do really, really enjoy is the fairy tale aspects, because I think that, I don't know if it was intentional, but we have glass slippers, we even have mention of like fur slippers and stuff like that, which is of course an older iteration of Cinderella story. We have flying carpets, which is really cool because there's combined magic to make that. We have Jinn, obviously, which is Genie and, you know, Aladdin and stuff. And then we have demons and mirrors, which, you know. So I thought it was super cool that we had a lot of things. I don't know if it was purposeful, but I find it hard to believe it wasn't, and I thought that was just really cool to see that. Overall, I think that Elizabeth Lim has a lot of potential. I really appreciated seeing this. I thought her premises and her plot ideas and writing were like fairly excellent, and I look forward to the execution that was fairly fair and her rising and becoming a more developed and nuanced writer. And I think that she has the ability to do that. This was, of course, one of her very first works, so I didn't think it was the most excellent piece of work, but I think that it had loads of potential. So I look forward to that. This is the end of this review. Let me know your thoughts. I tried to keep it the most spoiler-free as possible, and happy reading and writing. If you would like to follow me on Instagram or Twitter or Goodreads, on all three, I'm much more steady in talking about books on a regular basis and giving my thoughts as I go on. And then you can also comment, because I love those comments. They make me happy. And you can follow and like and not follow. Subscribe. Yeah, that's the word. Anyways, happy reading and writing, and I will see you very, very soon.